Fender has raised the standard or maybe lowered the standard in this particular case, depending upon how you look at it. There's been tons of controversy about this new guitar, but we are going to lay it to rest and get to the facts. So stick around. Hey, you're watching Alamo Music TV. My name is Chris McKee.
And I'm Cooper Greenberg.
We're here with Alamo Music in San Antonio, Texas. And you can find us online at alamomusic.com. If you're new to our channel, subscribe, hit the little notification icon and comment and all of those cool things. And if you'd like to support the channel, you can visit our spring store link below for custom swag. So, Cooper, it's the standard. It's back, sorta, kinda, but it's back. So if you haven't been following the news out of the NAMM show for 2025, Fender has reintroduced the Standard series that was previously made in Mexico, was replaced by the Player series. And what that meant was that the made in Mexico kind of $500 guitar has been gone. Now it's back, a little bit more expensive, and no longer made south of the border.
Made east of the border.
East of the border, in the Far East. In Indonesia. I love how there's so many companies that are taking on the whole Apple idea of like designed in California, made in Indonesia.
And that is exactly what this one says. And I will just say that whatever Fender puts out, it's always maybe the loudest group of people online that are upset about it.
Sure.
So AV2s came out, people were like, oh, but the finish is blah, blah, blah. And then Ultra 2s came out and people were like, well, the finish is blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't like the color. You don't have to get it. But the standards have made quite a splash online with people, probably without playing them, being upset at their existence.
Yeah. And I have seen some stuff there's a guy, Philip McKnight, who has the YouTube channel Know Your Gear, and he's been really kind of digging into details and stuff. And one of the things he was pointing out, I think he had one of the Telecasters, and he was counting how many pieces of the body there were, and poplar body, and price and kind of comparison. And I do get kind of where he's coming from and where other people are coming from. I think what I want to say at the outset is you're probably not the customer for this guitar. At the end of the day, this guitar, which comes out at $599, right, in Candy Cola, which is a cool color, is for someone who's wanting a Fender guitar right at $599. Now, there's a lot of opportunities with this guitar that we can talk about as we get into it, like, is it a good modding platform, and things like that. But a big kind of back and forth that I've seen in Reddit groups and from a lot of people is you can get a Squier Classic Vibe for less than this. And is it
slightly less?
Slightly less, yeah. Point. It's not a big discount. It'll say Squier on the headstock instead of Fender. Is it a better guitar? And people say, well, it's got these pickups and whatnot. I think that's kind of missing the point. I think Fender's made this to be branded this way to reach a certain audience, and they've given it modern specifications instead of vintage ones. And honestly, first blush, it's a great feeling guitar.
Yeah.
So we'll go kind of step by step through the specifications of the guitar. You had some time to play it, so we'll take a listen. But poplar body, maple neck, and if it doesn't have a skunk stripe, I'm not even going to touch it. These are ceramic pickups. Ceramic pickups.
This is available in a wide variety of finishes, and also not just in a Stratocaster. We have HSSs right now. There's Tele, Action, basses. What other models are they doing in this?
I think it's the Strat, the Tele, and the bass.
Okay.
As far as I know now.
Okay. So here's my thing. I just want to throw this out there. When the very first electric guitar my parents bought me was a Fender Standard Stratocaster. And I was like 8 or 9 years old. And I bet it was less than this, It's probably $400.
Probably, yeah.
Sunburst, and it was made in Mexico. And as a 8 or 9 year old person, I did not know where it was made. I didn't care. I liked that I had a Stratocaster that was sunburst and had a maple neck and said Fender on the headstock. And like Chris said, this is for somebody that just wants a good guitar. I don't think... Yeah. At the time, I wasn't making videos for Alamo Music. I didn't know specs. I didn't know what pickups were in it. I didn't know anything. And I still have that guitar, and I still play on that guitar. And it's great. And that was 20 years ago.
And, a little over 20 years ago, I remember playing bass in a band and being given a midnight blue Fender standard jazz bass. Um, that was one of those colors back then. This midnight blue was pretty standard in the standards. And I remember distinctly being electrified by that guitar because, talking about quality, it had a bad ground. And so as I played, sometimes I would get a little jolt. It's rock and roll.
That is rock, yeah. So I think the elements are there. Mm-hmm. This is a Stratocaster through and through. There are not corners cut. There are just different types of components that you would not see in, say, an American Strat or a Mexican Strat. But I will also say, some folks have said, hey, they've just put Fender on the headstock and it's basically a Squier and, for more money. I don't think that's true. And I also would say, you look at the other big one in electric guitars, Gibson, there's nothing even close to this price point with Gibson on the headstock. They did change some of the Epiphones to have Gibson-shaped headstocks. They still say Epiphone, and those are $1,500 guitars. And so I do think there's a lot of value here, and if we got it and took it out of the box and had to do a setup and a bunch of work on it, and I thought the pickup sounded horrible, I would be like, yeah, this is maybe, We have done nothing to this guitar.
Yeah.
And yes, I would say every single guitar is different, but we have other standards right now up on the wall. Every single one that I've played, I'm like, that feels good.
So, yeah, straight off the bat, I thought the neck felt great. It's got kind of a rounded feel, like they advertise on some of the higher end stuff around the neck. Now, when you compare and contrast this, so my eldest son, I bought him a Classic 550 Strat. Gosh, I don't know, 8 years ago. It's a great guitar. I like to pick it up and play it. It's a very, very different feel because it's vintage styled. Yep. So it's got a fully gloss neck. It's certainly not rounded around the edges. It's a gloss fretboard as well with the buildup that you usually see on the edges of frets, which is typical of Fender. It's got vintage style hardware. It's got a vintage style tremolo with 6 screws, like all of that stuff. It's a vintage style guitar. It's a great guitar. I think for the money, it's fantastic. I think this is at least equal to, if not having maybe a little bit better execution on the quality. And it's a modern feel. So you've got a satin finish neck, satin finish fingerboard, really good feel, like I said. And I want to have a little bit of a conversation about ceramic pickups, only because I think some of the discussions online have come down to this. Ceramic pickups are cheap and Alnico pickups are expensive. And that's such an oversimplification, it's kind of ridiculous. So as an example to how that shouldn't be the way that you look at this stuff, I think it's a rather expensive guitar. It's a Paul Reed Smith Santana model, not an SE, like a core Santana model. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the older models. The neck pickup is Alnico magnets, and the bridge pickup are ceramic magnets. That's it. It's not a cheap guitar. It's what was used to accomplish certain things. Ceramic typically is considered brighter, more powerful. Alnico is usually lower output, maybe more dynamic. Depends upon how many wraps you have on it. Like, there's so many nuanced things to this. Josh thought this guitar sounded warm. A little bassier maybe. Which not typically what you might think of when it comes to ceramic pickups. And so they've designed these to work with this guitar. And so, all of that to be said, I don't think you should go, well, this is this and this is that, and that's more expensive. It's just that's a gross oversimplification, generally speaking. So,
yeah, I will also say that we've talked a lot about entry-level guitars, beginner guitars, and then step-up guitars. No matter what, whenever we are trying to pair somebody with a guitar that they're going to be starting with, it's all about comfort and playability. Mm-hmm. Those are the most important things. Sound is extremely important, but I would feel like a beginner would be more concerned with how easy is it to play, how comfortable is it to play. And I think one major thing that they've done on this is on the bridge, they have these flattened,
block
saddles that alone is a certain kind of thing that I think is thinking beginner minded. That's really comfortable when you have your hand there and your palm muting. And I remember when I was in lessons, it was like, learn some chords and then we're going to learn how to palm mute. So palm muters, you're good to go. But also the neck, very playable, very easy, very comfortable. It's not super chunky. It's not super thin. It is akin to that modern C that we're kind of used to with Fender. But I think what they've done here is made a good Strat that has very, comfort and playability focused features on it.
9.5-inch radius. I really dig the look of the satin finished saddles over the chrome block tremolo. And, it's set up with the tremolo floating with a really, the action's good. You know, it's set up really, really well. So I think the execution is there. And I think it sounds pretty good, but, we should take a listen. All right, so there you have it. One of the things we talk about a lot on this channel is what determines the value of a guitar and how much a manufacturer can charge for it. A lot of it is brand, how long it takes to build a guitar, and components. But time is probably the biggest one, along with cost of labor. So the whole point of making a guitar somewhere outside of the United States is to have a lower cost of labor and to make it as efficiently as possible. Most of the time, that means that you have a sacrifice of quality. So if you can have a guitar built for a certain price without a sacrifice of quality and execute at a lower price point for a consumer, that's basically a win. And so I think that's what they've done here. There's been people that have said, well, this is like an affinity, Squier affinity. It's not like a Squier affinity at all. At all. I mean, the feel and setup of it is far superior to that. So I think at the end of the day, here's my take on it, and I'd like to hear your take on it. But I think this is a good quality guitar. I think Fender's going to be successful with this line because there is a large portion of guitar players who want to own a Fender, not a Squier made by Fender, and they want to be able to get it at a price point that they were used to 10 years ago, which is where this guitar is hitting. And most of those consumers don't care that it says it was designed in California and made in Indonesia.
Yeah.
That's my take on it. For those who don't like this guitar, you probably weren't going to buy it even if it was made in Mexico.
Yeah. Here's my take. One, we know that this is made in a reputable place, reputable factory
Yep.
that has a great track record. That's one thing. Second thing is we talk a lot, all kinds of guitars on this channel, and many people notice that we say, if like, this might not be the one for me, but it's the one for somebody out there. I think a better question is, would you gig with it? And there's this, since I have hardcore anxiety all the time, sometimes like I'll drive up to Austin and I'm like playing a show and I have this thought in my mind. I was like, oh my God, we loaded in an hour and I forgot my guitar. I've never forgotten my guitar, but I think about what would I do if I forgot my guitar.
You've never forgotten your guitar?
For a gig, no.
Have you ever forgotten your guitar at a gig? Or at
I have forgotten my guitar
Wars?
leaving a gig, but never to a gig.
Have you forgotten your guitar at a Guitar Wars and had someone take it before?
That happened to me.
Did you leave your jacket too?
Yes.
I was like, this is nice. I couldn't wear it. It was too small.
It's whatever. Guitar Wars, that's a parallel universe. So I always think about if I forgot my guitar and I'm in some city and I'm like, I got to go buy something and I can't go buy a, $1,500 guitar just for one gig, and I'm not going to be the guy, don't do this, that comes in, they're like, oh yeah, I just need something. What's your return policy? We know you're going to go gig with it, all right?
When you bring it back, I'm going to ask how the gig was.
If I was up in Austin and I had to go to Straight Music and buy a guitar for the gig that night because I couldn't run back home and none of the people I know in Austin would lend me a guitar, this would be the type of thing where I'm like, yeah, I'd go snag that and I'd go play it for a gig and I would hold on to it. So 100%, we always say, I would get this guitar, or this guitar is for this type of person. That's a good dichotomy there. This is the type of guitar that I think. Road guitar, 100%. If you got a custom shop Strat and you're going to go play in a bunch of bars in the Southwest, take the standard. But also modding platform, beginner guitar, and would you gig with it? Yes, I think that hits all those boxes.
So the modding platform is an interesting thought because, for me, a lot of that depends upon how does it feel and what's the overall quality of the guitar. So the quality, the fit and finish and everything is really superb on this guitar, which would mean it could be a very good modding platform to, say, swap out the pickups. Some of the times, and I don't know the answers to this right now, I'm putting it out there. Sometimes the question becomes, could you mod it with a different bridge? Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
We don't yet know exact measurements of this. So could you swap in an American bridge for it? Maybe, maybe not. A Wilkinson tremolo or something like that? Maybe, maybe not. The pickups would be an easy thing. You could swap out the pick guard and pickups and all of that pretty easy. No problem. Some of the other components, like the bridge, that's the one that's really kind of a question mark for me. But what you need to is the other part, because it looks like it's a really pretty decent quality, tremolo bridge. So, all in all, I mean, you don't get a gig bag with it because you don't. You don't even get a gig bag with a player at $799, which I think is heinous. But
that's heinous,
to use your favorite word.
Yeah, I didn't get a gig bag when I, my parents got me a Guitar Research gig bag. You remember those?
Yeah,
I was padded. Those. And the chunkiest, comfort strap. You remember those too? That was 2 inches of foam. That's oh my God. And I didn't care. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. So get over it, snobs. It's a good guitar. And gig bags are cheap.
I think it's a good guitar. I'm glad they came out with it. I'm glad that it's available in a bunch of finishes. And I think a lot of people are going to buy them and be very, very happy with them. So now we open it up to the vitriol of the internet. Let us know in the comments below what you think of the new Fender Standard Series. What I really want to do, since we've done this review of it, is get it in here with a player too. And
with a classic vibe.
Yeah, a little classic vibe. Do a comparison. So you can hear the differences. We can really kind of point out some of the differences setup-wise and feel-wise, stuff like that. But yeah, I think it's a good guitar.
You got Squier Sonic, Affinity, Classic Vibe, Standard, Player 2, Player Plus, American Performer, American Pro 2, American Vintage 2, American Ultra, and Custom Shop.
And a Partridge in a Pear Tree.
I mean, you got options. So if you don't like this one, don't complain that you don't have options. All right, you got plenty of options. I think this is a good one. I think this is a highlight in that very expansive thing. I think within that 300 to 800 price point, this would kind of be the no-brainer. But the Player 2s are great. They've
Yep.
been awesome, and the classic vibes are great. So there's other options than this, but this is a good option.
There you go. So let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, you know, if you like what we do on this channel, you like what we talk about, you want to hang out with us, make sure that you subscribe, you turn on the notifications, you like our videos. Visit our website for more information on these guys at,
alamomusic.com.
and we'll see you next time.